In the spring of 1988, my daughter Liz called me from the vet's office. "Ma," she said, "some people brought in a goat and they want Chet to put her down, but he says he'll save her if we'll take her." I said, "Oh, bring her on." And so in that evening, Chet drove his truck and trailer up our farm lane, and he carried the goat out of the back of the trailer. And my husband, Ralph, said, "God damn, Susan. You've got a horse that is allergic to grass. You have got a guard dog that slept through a lightning strike that nearly took down the barn. And now you got a goat walking on its knees." I said, "Ralph, look at her. She's beautiful." And she was. Lizzie said she was a Nubian. She had long ears that touched her chin. Those black and amber slit eyes, they had long eyelashes. She was a rony brown and she had a long black strip went down to the edge of her tail. And Lizzie said, "Her name is Queen Bee." I said, "Hi, Bee." And Bee was looking from me to Lizzie to Ralph, and she was wondering, am I home free? And Chet Anderson said, "Now I know she looks a little weird, Ralph. She just got laminitis, but if Susan will bring her down every 6 weeks, I'll trim up those feet, and in no time at all, she'll be walking again." And Ralph looked from Lizzie to me to Bee. He said, "She can stay, but she better not eat my dahlias." Well, Bee and Ralph must have made a pact about then, because Ralph loved his dahlias. He put them in the ground every May, and they came up in golds and reds and yellows and purples and oranges. And then he'd dig them up every October, wrap them in newsprints, and put them in the dirt cellar. And Bee never touched a dahlia. Impatiens, yes. Pansies, yes. Black-eyed Susans, yes. Ralph's prize roses, yes. Dahlias, never. And she joined the pack. We had 2 horses, one who couldn't eat grass, and we had a pony, and we had 7 dogs. Now, my husband was a kick-ass attorney, and he named all of his dogs out of Black's Law Dictionary. We had Deuces Taken, we had Tortfeasor, we had Malfeasance, we had Nunk-Pro-Tunk, we had Litigator. And then we had Meg, the dog who didn't guard, and then we had a little corgi, his name was Boycott, because he did boycott you. If you didn't have him straight in the eyes, woo, I'm gone. You don't know where Burkittsville is, but he once made it that far. So that's who we joined. And the next morning, after Ralph went to work and the girls went to school, I gathered up the dogs to go take a walk, leaving Meg, who slept. And we headed up into the back field, and all of a sudden I heard, nah, 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 nah. And there was Bee, walking on her knees. And I said, "I don't think you can make it," she said. And she straightened up her legs, got up on those sleds on her feet, and came after us. And we walked back up into the fields, into the woods, down to the creek. Bee knew what she was doing. And some days, late in the afternoon, I'd leave the dogs home, and Bee and I would just head out on our own. She knew what log I sat on, and we'd sit together, and sometimes we'd see that orange vixen. Sometimes we'd hear that tom turkey call his hens. Well, Bee was more of a dog than the dogs. That's from her point of view. So she thought, if they can go in the house, I can go in the house. So she taught herself to come down to the house, get onto the porch, and catch the doorknob between her lips and her gums and turn it and butt the door open. And we found her in the kitchen, in the living room, in the dining room more than once. And when Bee got the house hair up her ass, we had to deadbolt the doors. And she'd go from porch to porch, leaning her nose against the windows, going, nah, 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 nah. Ralph would say, God damn it, Susan, lock her up. Well, I'd lock her up, but as soon as he was gone, I'd turn her loose again. Well, one day, a couple of days after Christmas, we came home, Ralph, the girls, and I came home, and the kitchen door was wide open. She wasn't in the kitchen. She wasn't in the dining room. No, she was in the living room. She was eating the Christmas tree. She had nosed all the glass balls off, and they were laying shattered at her feet, and she was stripping the needles off of Ralph's prized Douglas firs. Now, you need to know about Ralph and Christmas trees. It was kind of like Ralph and dahlias. Ralph was this litigating attorney in a big Washington, D.C. firm, and he, with his litigating team, busted up AT&T. And he was so proud of that, he made a white T-shirt with a big blue Ma Bell sign on it, and his fist going right through it. Well, he took the earnings from that settlement, and he left D.C., and he opened up his practice where we lived in Frederick, Maryland. And then he planted himself 1,000 Christmas trees, 100 of them Douglas fir. And I said, Ralph, I think you're putting down roots. He said, woman. So, he liked those Christmas trees. And once he got them all planted and they were growing up, we had an establishment called the Star of David Christmas Tree Farm. Because he was Jewish and he figured, I can offend everybody. Well, years went by, and B stayed with us and grew older with us. But then in January of 1999, my husband died of a heart attack. And then his good dog, Litigator, died 2 months later. And then a year later, we lost Boycott. And you know who got me through? It was B. We would walk up that big hill into the woods, down to the creek, and sit there by that little seep of a creek. And we'd hear the nuthatch. We'd hear the tufted titmouse. We'd hear the wrens. And when that all got quiet, well, it meant the red tail was flying. And then as it came dusk, we'd hear hoo, 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 hoo. It was the great horned owl. Oh, B and I, we got through it. And Chet Anderson said to me, because the years kept going, I think your goat B has outlived the goat actuarial tables. By my reckoning, that goat is 17 years old. And B and I kept going. 18 and a half. We kept walking. We didn't go quite as far. But wherever we went, B would nudge into me and I would rub her knobby head. But when she was closing in on 19, there was a morning that she couldn't get up off the straw in her barn. And I called Chet and he said, you know what you've got to do. And I put B in the back of the car for our last trip down to Chet Anderson's vet office. When we got there, I said, Chet, I want her cremated, but I can't bring her home. I got Ralph's ashes and Gator's ashes and Boycott's ashes. Can't bring any more ashes home. He said, that's all right. We'll bury her right under this maple tree where we've always trimmed her feet. And we did just that. And Chet Anderson planted daffodils all around that tree, and they still come up. And I got a brass sign deep into that earth, and it says, be a good goat.